My name is Riley Vaughn, and I am 28 years old. The night my mother threw my life onto the driveway, I still had drywall dust on my blazer from a renovation site across town. I had just finished a 14-hour day adjusting lighting plans for a restored theater from the 1920s. All I wanted was a shower, 2 emails, and sleep. Instead, I turned into my parents' cul-de-sac and saw my clothes. Sketchbooks, winter coats, framed certificates, and half my childhood dumped across the concrete like the world's ugliest yard sale. My father, Derek, stood by the garage holding a bullhorn like he was hosting a carnival. "Attention, everyone," he shouted. "We're finally kicking out our 28-year-old deadbeat daughter." My mother, Cynthia, knelt by my suitcases and dragged a dripping paintbrush across the fabric in thick red letters. Pathetic. My younger sister, Lena, laughed while taping cardboard signs to folding chairs at the edge of the driveway. Free junk from a worthless leech. Neighbors slowed their cars. Someone across the street raised a phone and started recording. Then Cynthia lifted the bullhorn and screamed the line she wanted the whole block to remember. "She owes us $16,000. She hasn't contributed a thing in 3 years." I did not cry. I did not beg. I stood there long enough to understand this was planned, rehearsed, and meant to break me in public. I picked up what hadn't been smashed, loaded my car in silence. And when I finally looked at them, I said, "This isn't over. You're going to regret tonight." They laughed like I had told a joke. Cynthia wiped tears from her face and yelled, "With what? What could you possibly do?" Failure. I spent that first night in my car behind a 24-hour grocery store, parked beneath a flickering light with the back seat jammed full of my life. At 2 a.m, after the adrenaline wore off, I took inventory with my phone flashlight. 3 broken frames, 1 cracked tablet, 2 paint-soaked suitcases, my drafting case bent at the corner, a velvet box that should have held my grandmother's ring. Empty. That missing ring hit harder than the bullhorn. It was not about jewelry. It was the message. They didn't just want me gone. They wanted to erase proof that I belonged anywhere at all. By sunrise, I was in a cheap motel with my clothes piled on a chair and a headache pulsing behind my eyes. That was when I watched the video my sister posted. Lena had live-streamed the whole thing. Proudly. She panned across my belongings like a reporter at a disaster scene. Zoomed in while Cynthia shouted about debt. And Derek called me lazy, spoiled, and useless. Thousands of views were already rolling in because people love a public stoning when it's packaged as tough love. That morning, the names in my head stopped being Mom, our dad, sister. They became what they really were. Cynthia Vaughn, Derek Vaughn, Lena Vaughn. 3 people who knew exactly where to cut because they spent my whole life studying where I bruised easiest. The lie about $16,000 was almost funny. If it hadn't been dangerous. I had paid more than that into that house. Quietly. Because Cynthia always framed her demands as family emergencies. HVAC repair. Property taxes. Lena's tuition shortfall 1 semester. A temporary utility catch-up that somehow never ended. They said I lived there for free. But my checking account told a different story. I knew because I keep spreadsheets for everything. Occupational hazard. I'm an architectural lighting designer. Budgets. Timelines. Invoices. Receipts. I learned early that in my family, memory gets rewritten, but paperwork stays still. By noon, I booked a storage unit, rented a small, furnished studio month to month, and called the only person I trusted not to tell me to calm down. Sloan Mercer, my closest friend since community college. Listened to the live stream once and went quiet. Then she said, "Save everything. Posts. The Sondering. Texts. Bank transfers. Voicemails. Your family didn't just humiliate you. They built a record." Then she added the part that changed my thinking. "Your sister captured more than they realize. Your mom said the exact amount on camera. If it's fake, we prove it. If it's not, they explain where your money went. If you were me, would you clap back online right now? Or stay quiet and start collecting receipts first? Comment, clap back or receipts." 2 days later, Sloane walked me into the office of her older brother, Attorney Gavin Mercer, a civil attorney with the kind of calm voice that makes panicked people sit down before they fall over. He watched the live stream, read my screenshots, then asked for bank statements, transfer records, payment app notes, and email history with my parents. I expected a dramatic speech about justice. Instead, he leaned back and said, "You have documentation. That's the difference between pain and leverage." Then he laid out facts I didn't want to see. Cynthia had repeatedly texted me requests marked urgent. Tax payment, insurance notice, mortgage shortage. Keep this between us. Don't upset your father. Derek had emailed scanned invoices and asked me to pay vendors directly because his account was temporarily locked. I treated those messages like family duty. Gavin treated them like a financial timeline. By the end of that meeting, he highlighted 3 things that made my stomach drop. First, the $16,000 Cynthia screamed into a bullhorn matched almost exactly what I had paid into the house over the past 36 months. Second, county permit notifications for renovations at my parents' property had been sent to my email. Not theirs. And 2 forms appeared to bear my electronic signature on projects I never authorized. Third, the homeowner's insurance policy listed me as a co-applicant on an updated filing submitted 8 months earlier. I never signed it. I never consented. Gavin slid copies across the desk. "Riley, this is not just emotional abuse. This may involve fraud, misrepresentation, and defamation." Then he said the sentence that made everything real. "If I send letters, if we pull records, if we contact the bank, your family could lose access to money, our credit, maybe even that house. Once this starts, there's no pretending it was just family drama. Are you ready? Families don't get a lifetime license to crush you. Families don't get to paint your suitcases red and call it love." "Yes," I said. "I'm ready." Gavin sent a preservation letter. "Save all communications. Do not delete posts. Cease false statements. Provide an accounting for funds received from me over the last 3 years." That night, I sat on the floor of my new studio with takeout noodles and receipts spread around me like cards in a crooked game. For the first time, the question wasn't how I would survive what they did. The question was how much of their life was built on the assumption I would never fight back. My parents responded with arrogance. Cynthia posted a rant about kids who use therapy words to justify selfishness. Derek commented with a Bible verse about honoring parents. Lena reposted clips with laughing emojis. Louder meant truer. They thought. They didn't know Gavin had already started pulling routing records tied to my transfers. And Sloane had begun asking quiet questions through local contacts, because Cynthia sat on the board of a neighborhood arts fundraiser that depended on family-friendly publicity. A week after the driveway incident, Cynthia showed up at that fundraiser wearing a navy dress and a martyr's smile, ready to collect compliments about resilience and motherhood. I went too. Not for a scene. For witnesses. The event was held in a restored hotel lobby downtown. Brass railings. Chandeliers. Expensive donors pretending not to hear gossip. I arrived in black slacks and a cream blouse. Gavin came with me. Not as an enforcer. As a reminder that facts had entered the room. Cynthia saw me first. Her smile dropped, then snapped back. "Riley," she said loudly, grabbing a donor's arm. "My daughter is going through a difficult phase, but we're praying for healing." Derek moved toward us with Lena 2 steps behind, already filming because apparently humiliation was their hobby now. I let Cynthia talk. I let Derek say I was unstable. I let Lena mutter that everyone should know I bled them dry. Then, when enough people had gathered without pretending not to listen, I asked one question. "Cynthia, do you want to repeat the part about me, owing you $16,000? She lifted her chin. "Absolutely." I connected my phone to a small, portable speaker and played the driveway clip where she screamed the figure into the bullhorn. Then I held up printed transfers with dates and memo lines. Property tax, furnace repair, tuition balance, insurance shortfall, emergency plumbing, vendor payment after Derek claimed the bank froze his account. I read them one by one. Calm and clear. The room went quiet in a way I had never heard before. Cynthia's color changed. Derek snapped that I was embarrassing them. I said, "What embarrassed you was being told no for the first time." Gavin stepped forward and introduced himself. Clearly. So board members and donors understood this was no longer gossip. He did not threaten anyone. He stated that false public claims were documented and under review, along with possible unauthorized use of my name on property and insurance documents. Lena lowered her phone. Cynthia tried to laugh, but it sounded like glass cracking. Someone on the board asked if the live stream was real. Another asked if they really threw my belongings outside. Derek started talking too fast, which is what guilty people do when there are no sympathetic shortcuts left. I walked out before it turned into mud. In the parking garage, my hands shook so badly I dropped my keys twice. Gavin picked them up, placed them in my palm, and said, "That was not revenge. That was correction. The revenge part is when institutions start caring. If you had witnesses in front of you, would you confront your family publicly, or keep it private and let lawyers handle it? Comment public or private." 3 days later, the Arts Board suspended Cynthia pending review. Sponsors pulled out. My family still didn't understand the worst part hadn't started. Cynthia doubled down online, claiming I doctored records. Derek called me bitter. Lena posted a tearful video insisting I always resented the family. For a few hours, it worked on people who love vague morality and hate details. Then Sloan aired a segment. She did not name every legal detail, but she showed enough verified footage to shift the ground under my parents' feet. My face was partly obscured. The driveway footage wasn't. Neither was the bullhorn. Neither were the signs. Neither was Lena's own livestream chat cheering while my things sat in paint. Public sympathy swung hard. Consequences started arriving like dominoes. Cynthia was asked to resign from boards. Her employer placed her on leave. Derek lost contracts when clients emailed asking whether the bullhorn man was the same man they wanted in their homes. Lena's influencer side hustle collapsed when brands backed out and comments filled with clips from the driveway. Then the real crack came. My phone started filling with unknown numbers. Reporters fishing. Relatives demanding both sides. Strangers calling me brave. A word that felt too clean for what I actually felt. Tired. Furious. Vindicated. Heartsick. At 1:14 in the morning, Lena messaged, "I didn't know Mom used your name on paperwork. Please call me." Minutes later, she wrote, "If you just tell people this is a misunderstanding." All of this stops. That message told me everything. They still thought my silence was the lever. I sent the screenshot to Gavin. The next morning, Gavin forwarded a county notice confirming an inquiry into discrepancies on permit applications tied to my parents' property improvements. The lender reviewing their refinance suspended the application. The insurance carrier opened a fraud review after my parents tried to reference my co-applicant status, and I disputed it in writing. Their quick cash vanished. The house Cynthia treated like her stage and Derek treated like his kingdom became a liability with paperwork attached. Exactly 3 weeks after Cynthia painted my luggage and called me worthless, my phone started vibrating across my desk like it was trying to escape. One call, then another, then 3 at once. Derek, Cynthia, Lana, an aunt, a cousin, an unknown number from the county office. Texts flooding so fast I could barely read them. They're saying forgery. The insurance got flagged. "We need you to confirm you approved everything. Please." I carried the phone to the break room, turned on the sink, and laid it face down because hearing it vibrate against the counter made me feel trapped. Gavin told me not to answer anyone until he reviewed the latest documents. When he called, his voice was steady in that lawyer way. That means something is either very bad or very good, depending on which side you are on. The refinance was frozen. The fraud review was active. The county inquiry had moved. Cynthia lost her job that morning. Derek's biggest client paused work. Lena, he said, was the only one who understood how bad it was. Lena proved him right by showing up outside my office with swollen eyes and none of the smugness from the driveway. I met her in the lobby because I refused to bring chaos into the workplace I fought to build. "I'm not here for Mom," she said. "Dad keeps saying you can fix it if you just tell them you approve the insurance and permit stuff. Did you?" "No," I said. Her face folded. Then Mom lied to all of us. Lena, I said. Mom didn't just lie. She used me. And you filmed it while she did. Pieces came out between tears. Cynthia hid notices for years. Derek approved shortcuts to keep up appearances. Lena admitted she thought they were forcing me out to teach me responsibility. She believed their script. I should have felt satisfied. I felt tired. This is what toxic families do. They hand out roles until everyone forgets they're choosing them. That night, Cynthia left a voicemail from a number I didn't recognize. Her pride was gone. Riley, please. They're talking about charges. We could lose the house. I know you're angry. But this is your family. I listened once, then sent it to Gavin. He proposed a final controlled meeting. Neutral ground. Documented. Not for reconciliation. For terms. We met in a conference room at his office the next morning. Fluorescent lights. A legal pad. A tissue box nobody touched. Cynthia looked 10 years older. Derek's shoulders were collapsed inward. Lena sat at the far end. Afraid to look at me too long. Gavin set rules. One person speaks at a time. No rewriting documented facts. No direct communication with me outside council-approved channels unless I chose otherwise. Cynthia cried. I was overwhelmed. I was trying to hold everything together. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I looked at her. You bought red paint. You found a bullhorn. You made signs. Lena filmed it. Derek announced it. That didn't go too far. That was the plan. Gavin slid the disputed forms across the table. Riley did not authorize use of her signature or status. She did not consent to being listed on the updated insurance filing. She does not owe the debt claimed publicly. Available records show the opposite. Cynthia whispered. We'll pay it back. Gavin answered. Repayment is one condition. Not the only one. Then it was my turn. I didn't need theatrics. I needed precision. Here's what happens next. You publish a full written retraction. Specific. You admit I contributed financially. You admit you publicly humiliated me. You remove every post and video attacking me. Lena posts an apology of her own. You repay every documented dollar on a schedule Gavin approves. You do not contact my workplace. You do not show up at my home. You do not send relatives to pressure me. If any of that happens, Gavin proceeds without negotiation. Derek asked if I was really willing to let the family fall apart over a misunderstanding. I almost laughed. No. The family fell apart the night you made a show out of throwing me away. I'm just refusing to be buried under it. By the end, Cynthia agreed to retraction and repayment. Derek signed an acknowledgement that the debt claim was false. Lena agreed to a written apology and therapy instead of begging for instant forgiveness. The public statements went out within days. The record changed. The lie died. They kept the house barely. After payment plans and selling assets Derek treated like status, they didn't lose everything. They lost the fantasy that they could do anything to me and still call themselves righteous. A month later, I was promoted to lead designer on the theater restoration project. The night we tested the final lighting sequence, I stood alone in the balcony and watched a dark stage come alive under cues I built myself. Restoration is not pretending damage never happened. It is refusing to let damage be the final design. That is what I did. I did not destroy my family. I stopped volunteering to be destroyed by them. If you want more real stories like this, subscribe and turn on notifications. The next one will hit even harder.